All right, hi everyone, and welcome to the Financing Your Study Abroad information session. My name is Allison Broadbent, and I'm the Study Abroad Manager at the Center for International Programs. So just a couple of housekeeping notes before we begin. Just wanted to point out that all the photos in this presentation were taken by Guelph students during their study abroad experience. And I guess the question that's on everybody's mind these days with COVID is, will we be able to travel again? So hopefully, if you're listening to this presentation, you are interested in study abroad, and we are keeping our hopes up that that hopefully our study abroad programs will be able to continue next year, that by that time students will be able to travel again. So this is the beginning of the presentation, and I just wanted to start with some general things to keep in mind. The first one is that for all of our study abroad programs, you're still paying the same tuition to University of Guelph. So you're not paying tuition to another university abroad. It's the same tuition you would normally pay. And for fall and winter exchange programs, you have to pay full-time tuition even if you drop to a part-time course load. So you're always going to be charged full-time. But for our summer programs, because many of them are short-term programs and you might only be getting 1.0 credits or 0.5 credit, for those programs, students are charged tuition just for the number of credits that they're receiving. And in general, Guelph students who have studied abroad tell us that the cost of a semester studying abroad is usually about 1.5 to 2 times the cost of a semester in Guelph, just to give you a rough idea. However, it's really important to remember that the cost of living in the country that you're going to and your own personal spending habits and additional travel plans you might have will affect your total costs. So the majority of the countries where we have study abroad programs, I would say the cost of living is higher than in Canada. So, for example, in Europe and Australia and the UK. But we do have some locations that are actually where the cost of living is less expensive than in Canada. So those would typically be countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And students who go to those countries find that the overall cost of a semester there or a program there is about the same as living in Guelph. So the first step to figuring out whether you can afford to study abroad is to make a good budget. So I'm just going to talk about the mandatory costs that University of Guelph requires, and the two main types of programs that we have, which are an exchange, where you would go and study at another university for a full semester, or summer field schools, which are programs that are short-term in May and June, typically 4 to 6 weeks, and those are a group program that's led by a University of Guelph professor. So for exchange, there is an $80 study abroad fee that you pay once you've been selected for the exchange program. It's like an administrative fee. And for all of our programs, we have a mandatory health insurance program with GuardMe. That's about $1.65 a day that students have to buy their travel health insurance through that company. And then for our summer field schools, there's kind of like a package deal field school fee. So students pay a fee to our office, to the Center for International Programs, and it typically covers accommodations in the country, excursions, entrance fees to museums or other places, and sometimes additional costs may be covered in that fee. Sometimes there's certain meals, etc. So you can check our website for details on what is covered for each of the field schools in the specific field school fee. And then again, students have to buy the mandatory health insurance plan through GuardMe. So on top of these mandatory fees through University of Guelph, you also have to consider what the fees will be for your airfare, a passport if you don't have one yet, visas if one is required to enter the country you're going to. For exchange programs, your accommodation fees while you're on exchange, Most of the Guelph students end up living or choose to live in the residences at our exchange partner universities. So you can look into approximately how much that will cost, food while you're abroad, possible student fees that are charged by our exchange partner universities. So while you pay your tuition to University of Guelph, there might be some sort of student fees that you have to pay at your host university, such as athletic center fees, those kinds of things, similar to what you pay at Guelph. Vaccinations if necessary. And then really important to consider is how much additional travel you plan to do while you're on exchange. So students typically take the opportunity while they're abroad to travel around the country that they're in, take weekend excursions, and even travel to other countries that are in the vicinity. So it's important to think about that, and also your own spending habits. But in the end, if you make a good budget and think about where you're going to save the money from for your experience, then it usually is doable. So now I'm going to talk about some of the ways that you can actually finance your study abroad. So the first one is work savings. If you're planning to study abroad, then you may want to start putting away some savings slowly over time from a summer job, or if you're working part-time during university. So if you are working and counting on some of those savings, it's important to consider that the semester dates at many of our exchange partner universities are different than University of Guelph. Actually, the majority of our exchange partners have different semester dates than we do. So for example, in Australia, the semesters are from July to November and from March to June. So that would mean that you wouldn't be able to work as long during the summer before you go on exchange, but then you would have a much longer period over the Christmas break if you wanted to come back to Canada and work then. And another example, in the UK and actually many of our partners in Europe, the winter semester runs from January, but until May or June, so it's a much longer semester. So you would not be able to start working your summer job until later in the summer. We have a lot of short-term summer programs that may work well for students that want to go away somewhere, but not for a long period of time, and want to still have time to come back and still be able to work during the summer. So as I mentioned before, we have our faculty-led group programs called Summer Field Schools. That's one option. And then many of our exchange partners offer short-term summer semester programs. So they might be 4 to 6 weeks during May or June or August. So you'd still have time to work during part of the summer. And also, exchange students are allowed to work in some countries. So whatever visa you have to be in that country, sometimes will let you also work while you're there part-time. You have to check the visa regulations to find out whether that's the case for the country that you're interested in going to. So we do know of students that have worked part-time while they're studying abroad, and that can be a whole type of interesting experience in itself. But we wouldn't recommend that you count on having a job while you're studying abroad. So, make sure that you actually have enough money to cover your study abroad in advance. And then if you want to make a little bit of extra spending money while you're abroad, you could look into working in your host country. So loans are another possibility for helping to fund your study abroad. So it's important to know that if you're on OSAP or other Canada student loans, provincial student loans, you can still get those while you're studying abroad, because you're still registered as a Guelph student during your study abroad program. Important to note that for the short-term summer programs, for OSAP, your study abroad program needs to be at least 4 weeks long in order to get OSAP. Some of our summer study abroad programs are actually shorter than 4 weeks. Not many of them, but there's a few. So just make sure if you're counting on OSAP that the program you're applying for is at least 4 weeks long. And then bank loans or credit lines are always an additional option if you're not eligible for OSAP. Some banks have, good credit line deals with a good rate of interest on them. What most students ask us about are whether there are travel grants and bursaries available, and there definitely are. So Student Financial Services at University of Guelph administer most of the travel grants for the university, and you can see the website at the top of this slide, or you can just search for travel grants on the U of G homepage, and it brings you to a travel grant search. So you can see all of the different travel grants that are available. Some of them, it will say that, there's a specific application that you need to submit or you need to write a letter. But many of the travel grants are all covered under the undergraduate needs-based travel grant application. So that's just one application where you can list several different travel grants that you want to apply for, and you'll be considered for them. Many of the University of Guelph travel grants are based on financial need. So for those, students must be on OSAP or other provincial student loans in order to be eligible. So you have to have that demonstrated financial need. However, there are some travel grants that are not requiring financial need. So again, you can use the travel grant search to find out which of those you might be eligible for. Also, different academic departments at University of Guelph sometimes offer their own travel grants. So just in particular, the College of Social and Applied Human Sciences, they have many travel grants of their own that you actually apply for separately through a letter or through an application form that you can find information about those on the Seesaw website. The business programs have the Lang Experiential Learning Grants, and the Ontario College Agricultural College has many travel grants of their own. So it may be worth checking with your college to see if they have any internal travel grants. There are also many external organizations that offer travel grants that Guelph students can apply for. So a couple of examples are BUTEX. I won't go into what the acronym stands for, but it's an exchange organization in the UK. They have some grants that we tell students about, so you can apply for them. There's the Ernst Mach grant for students that will be studying in Austria. The Swedish Women's Association provides some grants for students that will be studying abroad in Sweden, and we've had many Guelph students that have received that travel grant. And then there's JASO scholarships for Japan. You don't have to remember all of those. Once you're selected to study abroad, any travel grants that we're aware of externally, we do let you know about them, and we remind students about application procedures and deadlines. So now I just wanted to also talk a bit about summer research programs that have funding attached to them. So one of those is MyTax, which is a big nonprofit organization in Canada that is funded by the Canadian government and provides research opportunities, research placements for Canadian students in other countries. And you can see the website there is mytax.ca. The main program for undergraduate students is called Global Link Research Internships, and these are 12 weeks. You can go in the fall, winter, or summer. The countries tend to keep changing where you can do the placements, but some of the examples are Brazil, China, France, Germany, the UK, India, Japan, Korea, Singapore, the US, and Mexico. So there's lots of different countries to choose from. And if you're chosen for the program, you get approximately $6,000 Canadian to help with your travel expenses and living expenses. Definitely look at that program to find out deadlines, because the deadlines do tend to be quite early. You need to apply quite in advance of the time that you want to do the research placement. And then another organization that provides research grants is DAAD, which is a German organization that promotes German culture, basically abroad. And they have the RISE grants for undergraduate students, research internships in science and engineering, or RISE. These are 12-week summer summer positions in Germany, doing research with under a professor there. And I couldn't find the exact amount that students receive listed on their website, but I do know that it's fairly sizable. It's usually enough to live on, and basically you get a monthly stipend and your housing provided while you're there. We have had students that have done both of these programs at Guelph. So just to finish up, I just wanted to sort of end by saying that study abroad is really an investment in your future. So while it can be more expensive than a semester at Guelph, it's usually definitely worth it. All of the students that come back from their study abroad experiences, the vast majority of them tell us that it was a really amazing experience for them, if not the best experience of their university degree. So you get to gain international experience and intercultural competency skills that are going to be really important for today's globally connected workforce. Employers are really looking for people that have those international experience and skills. So to be able to put that on your resume is definitely going to be an advantage. You'll make friends from all over the world, and students often don't realize. They know that they'll make, friends and meet people from their host country, but there'll also be other students from other parts of the world that are studying in that location at the same time. And so students usually end up making friends from all over the place. And those are friends and connections that you'll have for the rest of your life. And then it's also an incredible opportunity for academic and personal development and growth. You're going to get a different academic perspective on your studies from that country's point of view. And as far as personal development, students come back and tell us, that they realized things about themselves that they never knew. They realized they had different strengths and skills to be able to be adaptable, to be flexible, to deal with certain challenges that may have come up. So for all of these reasons, it's really, really a great investment in your future. Next steps, if you haven't attended a study abroad information session, that would be the next thing that you should do. That's an information session where we go over all of the different things that you need to know about studying abroad, the different programs that we offer, eligibility requirements, and how to apply. And if you're interested in studying abroad next academic year, so in summer 21, fall 21, or winter 22, then you need to apply by January 31st of this coming year. You can also contact us at any time if you have questions, and there's also lots of information on our website. So those are listed here at the top of this slide. You can contact us at cip@uoguelph.ca. And then you can also follow us on social media where we post lots of updates, lots of information about different programs. So those are our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter handles. So I don't know if we've had any questions. Okay, well, I don't think we have any questions, so that's the end of our presentation. And we hope that you decide to study abroad sometime during your university degree. Thanks.